You know, sometimes the biggest stories, the ones that really tell us who we are found in the smallest of places. We're going to look at just one family on one farm during one single pivotal year, 1867. This was the year that laid the groundwork for everything that came after. This is the story of Sjur Torgersen. Just let that sink in for a second. That one sentence, it's the whole story right there. Back in Norway, Sjur worked fields that would never be his. He was a hired hand. But here, in America, he finally had a piece of the earth to call his own. And owning land, well, it wasn't just about money. It was about dignity. It was about security. And most of all, it was about building a future for his family. And here's the part that really gets me. Sjur wasn't some young guy looking for a big adventure. He was 62 years old when he finally got his family onto their own farm. Think about that. This wasn't the beginning of his life's work. This was the dream he had been chasing for decades, finally coming true. Okay, so let's picture it. It's late winter, 1867, in a place called Deerfield, Wisconsin. Sjur, his wife, Brita, and their kids had already been in America for 10 years. But now, finally, they're moving on to their very own 40-acre piece of land. This wasn't just moving down the road. This was the finish line of a journey that had started on a ship all the way from Norway. Now, the house itself, it was basic. We're not talking about a mansion here. But a couple of things made it feel like a palace to them. First, the community. You know, that classic barn-raising spirit? Neighbors just showed up and helped them build it. And second, that simple, powerful idea of ownership. It was theirs. Every log, every nail was on land that belonged to them. So they've got the house, they've got the land, and then, of course, their first big challenge arrives with the snow. A brutal Wisconsin winter on a brand new homestead. This season wasn't just about surviving the cold. It was about finding the rhythm of their new life while trying to hold on to the culture they brought with them from the old one. It was like they were living two separate lives at the same time. Outside, it was just a constant fight with the cold. I mean, bone-chilling, back-breaking work from before the sun came up just to keep the animals alive. But inside, by the fire, that was their sanctuary. It was warmth, it was tradition. That's where they kept their Norwegian heritage alive, telling old stories, speaking their language, and just being together. Okay, so they survived the winter, but as the snow melted and spring arrived, well, that's when the real work began. A huge chunk of their 40 acres was just untouched wild prairie, and turning that tangled sod into a farm field, that was one of the toughest jobs a person could do.
This wasn't just simple plowing. No way. Breaking prairie, they called it, and it was a battle. First, you had Sjur, his whole body aching as he tried to guide the oxen and keep that huge iron plow straight as it ripped through a thick mat of roots. Then came his son, Torger, following with a harrow to break up these massive, heavy clumps of earth. And only then, after all that, could they finally plant the seeds. And every single one of those seeds was a little prayer for the future.
You can just imagine Sjur watching his son working right there beside him, and seeing the entire reason for all this sacrifice, this incredible labor. It wasn't really for him. It was to make sure his kids would have a chance he never did, the chance to be landowners, not just laborers on someone else's land. As summer turned to fall, life on the farm started to be about more than just their own little world. It was about becoming part of the community, about weaving together the old customs from Norway with the new traditions they were finding in America. And I really can't overstate this. The Norwegian Lutheran Church was the absolute center of their universe. It served two huge roles. On one hand, it was their spiritual rock, a place where they could worship in Norwegian and sing the hymns they grew up with. But just as important, it was their social network. After the service, that's where you got the news, that's where you traded farming tips, and that's where you just connected with people who knew exactly what you were going through. So while they're holding on to these old world traditions, they're also slowly, piece by piece, becoming American. Just try to picture Sjur at a 4th of July party, probably struggling to understand these long political speeches in English, while his kids are just soaking it all in. They're seeing parades, fireworks for the very first time. And at the local school, the children are learning a new language, a new culture. They were becoming the bridge between two different worlds. And then, after all of that, came the payoff. The harvest. This was the moment all that back-breaking, year-long labor was for. The entire family worked side by side, cutting wheat, digging up potatoes, preserving everything they could. The pig was butchered for salted pork to last the winter. Absolutely nothing was wasted. Seeing a full root cellar and smokehouse, that was their reward. That was security made real.
That 1 year, 1867, it really was the turning point. That was the year the seed of their family's American dream was truly planted. And from that point on, it just started to grow, branching out across the decades.
So after that incredible first year, life went on. They watched their kids grow up, get married, and start their own families. Sjur lived all the way to 84, spending more than 3 decades in America. He got to see the fruits of all his labor. He got to know that the future he had worked so hard for was safe. And in the end, their story comes full circle, right back to where it all started, in the soil of Deerfield, Wisconsin. They're buried together in the cemetery of that same church that was the heart of their community. Their graves are a permanent testament to 2 people who risked everything, who worked until their bones ached, and who planted a new life in new ground. For Sjur Torgersen, it took a whole lot of courage, unbelievable hardship, and a laser focus on the next generation. His story reminds us that so many of our own family trees have a story just like this somewhere in their roots, a story of leaving one world behind to build another. And it kind of leaves you with a big question, doesn't it? What are the seeds that we're planting today?